Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari 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 Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Usman Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna. Welcome to all the devotees. Thank you very much for your attendance as we continue with Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 8, verses 37 to 43, the final verses of the prayers of Queen Kunti. Chapter is entitled The Prayers of Queen Kunti and Parikshit Saved. Om Jnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapara Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavinebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavranda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Sarva Shastra Piyusha Sarva Vedeka Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnadya Sarva Lokayatrit Prada Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavato Prabhu Kalidvando Didaditya Shri Krishna Parivartita. O Srimad Bhagavatam, O nectar churned from the ocean of all Vedic scriptures, O most prone transcendental fruit of all the Vedas, O you enrich the jewels of all spiritual philosophy conclusions, O you who grant spiritual vision to all the people of the world, O light breath of the Vaishnava devotees, O Lord, you are the sun which has arisen to dispel the darkness of Kali Yuga. You are actual Lord Krishna who has returned amongst us. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varsha Shavayate Sarvada Sarva Sevyaya Shri Krishnaya Namastute. O Srimad Bhagavatam, I offer my respectful obeisance unto you. By reading you one attains transcendental bliss. For your syllables rain pure love of God upon the reader. You always to be served by everyone for your incarnation of Lord Krishna. Madekabando Matsange Madguru Man Mahadana Man Nishtaraka Madbhagya Madananda Namastute. O Srimad Bhagavatam, O my only friend, O my companion, O my teacher, O my great wealth, O my deliverer, O my good fortune, O my bliss, I offer my respectful obeisance unto you. Asadu Sadhu Tadain Attini Churchataraka Anamuncha Kada Chinmam Premna Ritkatayospura. O Srimad Bhagavatam, O give us saintliness to the unsaintly, uplift the very fallen. Please don't ever leave me. Please become manifest. Mahatma Toda, accompany the love of Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Janmadyasya yatonvayaritarata charte swabhigna swarat tene brahma hidaya adikavaye muyanti yat suraya tejo vari mridam yata vinimayo yat prati sargom risha damna swena sada nirastakokam satyam param dhimahi. O my Lord Shri Krishna, son of Vasudeva, O pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisance to you. I meditate upon Lord Shri Krishna because he is the absolute truth and primal cause of all causes of creation, sustenance and destructions of the manifested universe. He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations and is independent because there is no other cause beyond him. It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji, the original living being. By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed in delusion as one is bewildered by the illusory representation of water seen in fire, land seen on water. Only because of him did the material universe is temporarily manifested by the reactions of the three modes of nature appear factual, although they are unreal. I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Shri Krishna, who is eternally existent, transcendental abode, which is forever free from the illusory representation of the material world. I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth. Prayana Upaisha Sabya Kalabasmin Yuge Jana Manda Sumanda Matayo Manda Bhagya Padrita. All in the one, this age of Kalimena, but short lives, the quarrelsome, lazy, misguided, unlucky, and above always disturbed. Narayam Namaskritya Narachevam Narotamam Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jaya Mudire. Before reciting Srimad Bhagavatam, is the very means of conquest. One should offer respectful obeisance unto the personality of God in Narayan. Unto Narayan, we should supreme human being, and the Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasa, the author. Savai Pumsa Parodharmo Yatobhaktira Dokshaja Hituge Pratyata Yatma Suprasidati, supreme occupation dharma for all humanities, that by which man can attain loving devotional service unto the transcendent Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated, uninterrupted, completely satisfy the self. Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janayatya Savairagyam Jnanam Chayat Ahitukam. By rendering devotional service under the personality of God at Shri Krishna, one immediately acquires causes knowledge and detachment from the world. Vadanti tatta tavidas tattvam yajnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavaniti sabhyate. Learn the transcendentals who know the absolute truth, call this non-dual substance Brahman Paramatma Bhagavan. Shru Shru Shroshadadanasya Vasudeva Kataruchi Syan Mahatsevaya Vipra Punya Tirtha Nishevanat. O twice born sages, by serving those devotees who are completely free from all vice, great service is done. By such service, one gains affinity for hearing the messages of Vasudeva. Sharanvatam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Ryaddam Stoya Bhadrani Vidunoti Suritsatam. Shri Krishna, personality of God, who is Paramatma, supersoul in everyone's heart, and the benefactor, truthful devotee, cleanses desire from material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtues when properly heard and chanted. Nasta Prayashu Bhadreshu Nitam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Sloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtiki. By regular attendance in the classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. And loving service under the personality of God, who is praise or transcendental songs is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We're continuing from Srimad Bhagavatam based on his teachings of the Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, the founder of International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Right, Hare Krishna, the devotees, let us continue with some feedback from last week's verses. Mother Leela, you have your hand raised as well. So please share with us any feedback from last week's verses, anything that caught your attention, anything that you decide to remember and recollect. And Mother Leela, your hand is raised. If you have a question, you can unmute yourself or type that in the chat as well. Mother Archana Siddhi says, Krishna consciousness is all about solving the problem of death, how to live perfectly and how to die perfectly. In the spiritual world, every word is a song, every step is a dance, and every day is a festival, and there is no 8-hour job. Yes, this is what Krishna consciousness is. It's a glorious mission and a very, very exalted mission. It is really a grave responsibility of those who have Krishna consciousness to give Krishna consciousness to others. So very, very important. Thank you for that. The Hemavati Radhika says, serving Krishna is our only function. Can't be Krishna consciousness, can't be Krishna conscious without practice, which is also a very important point. Prabhupada always say it's not an armchair philosophy that we can speak and we can even distribute and share, but when it comes to the practical application, it falls short. We see as we go through the Bhagavatam, as we go through Chaitanya Charitamrita, and we hear about the exalted qualities of those who are Krishna conscious, those who are in the line of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission, such exemplary qualities. And then you look around and you see on a practical level those who are practicing Krishna consciousness, if those qualities are not resonating practically, then something's not right. And we know it's not with the practice, it's not with the philosophy. but it's about those who are serious or not serious in applying Krishna consciousness. So if we really apply Krishna consciousness and allow the process to impact our lives, then that becomes the greatest form of preaching. Nalini Kanta Prabhu says, balance means you are spirit and you have a body, therefore maintain both. Yes, I always, when in my philosophy, my understanding, let's put it that way, my limited understanding of, balancing life, because people present this, you need to balance material life and spiritual life. No, you can't balance material and spiritual life. That's like balancing, fire and water together. It doesn't work. It's incompatible. Or like balancing good and bad. That's incompatible. Balancing means understanding I'm a spiritual being, and that's my focus. That's my priority. That's my existence. That's authentic lifestyle. That means you are living the truth. If you consider yourself the material body, then you are living a lie. So you can't live truth and live a lie. It just doesn't work. You need to live the truth. But while you're living the truth, you have resources. One of the resources that you have is this body. Because of our past lifestyle of living a lie, we've got a false identification and a false, false identification in relation to the body, which means I have a body, and now I understand I'm a spiritual being with that reaction, prarabdha karma, the body. So now I understand who I am, and I understand what I still have from my past, and I use my past, use the body, maintain the body to perfect my life. So that's real balance. Do the needful materially and focus spiritually. Bhagavatam Prabhu says, systematic sublime discussion of birth and appearance of Krishna is deeply dissected. Yes, by Queen Kunti. She's presenting so many devotees, so many personalities shared their views of Krishna's appearance. And ultimately, we cannot exhaustively understand why Krishna appears. Krishna can appear for unlimited reasons. Krishna can perform his activities and sanction and do things that are inconceivable for us to appreciate or understand. But one thing we should have firm faith in is that whatever Krishna does, whatever the Lord does, is always, always the most perfect decision and the most perfect answer to what we desire. He's the perfect physician for our illness. We may not appreciate it, we may not see it, but guaranteed, rest assured, it is perfect. Amati Radhika says, our first business is hearing spiritual world and no work simply ananda. Prabhupada makes it very clear, our first business is to hear about Krishna. In fact, that's what a child does. The first business of a child, who as a child is growing up, to educate the child, is hearing. So for us also to educate ourselves about Krishna, Krishna conscious hearing is important. Shamananda Prabhu says, thanks Prabhu for helping us all. Srila Prabhupada was saying we are inviting everyone, but they say they are busy, no time, but some or other, we have to get them to hear about Krishna. Yes. Somehow or other we have to get them to hear about Krishna. And that's the expertise of the Sankirtan devotees. That's the expertise of those in the mission of Krishna consciousness. How can I get them to be connected to Krishna somehow or other? How can I get them to hear about Krishna? Whether that's hearing through Srila Prabhupada's book, reading, or getting them to hear from Srila Prabhupada somehow or other. Just like I did a memorial program and last night, and these are they're not devotees in the sense they're not Krishna, they're not followers of Krishna consciousness, but they some family members are favorable, so they asked me to do that. So I said no problem, and I facilitated it. But I in the beginning I played Prabhupada Kirtan, had Prabhupada sing Jara Madhava, and that is beneficial for them. I could have led, but by them hearing Srila Prabhupada, the impact of them hearing Srila Prabhupada far, far, far outweighs my kirtan, my potency. So therefore, even if they didn't grab anything from my talk, but the fact that they got exposed to hearing about Srila Prabhupada, the pure devotee of the Lord, that devotional sukriti, devotional credits is now in their bank account. So that's our goal. Somehow or other, get people connected, because and not forcing them, but allowing, giving them Krishna consciousness in a way that it's acceptable, it's pleasurable, relishable, and this way help them on their journey. Many people may have done that for us in our past lives. That is why we are here, able to hear the Bhagavatam, accept the Bhagavatam. It's not like, oh, I'm such a great soul, therefore I'm here now. No. Great souls have given us sufficient credits to be able to come to this point of appreciating Srimad Bhagavatam, of associating with Srila Prabhupada. So like that also, we continue. Prabhupada says like a train journey, like a train. One cart pushing the next cart. So Prabhupada said, my Guru Maharaj pushed you and I'm pushing you. So in this way, this is how the movement of Krishna consciousness should continue. Otherwise, it's no more Hare Krishna movement. It's Hare Krishna standstill. Everything is stagnant. Everything is standing still. And when things stand still, they say rolling stones gather no moss. When the movement stands still, it's going to gain moss, and you don't want that. Green thing starts to develop, and you don't want that. Therefore, there has to be motion, there has to be movement. When there's movement, there's momentum, then one does not get caught up in stagnation. Bhafana Prabhu says, the second section addresses the nature of dependence of the Pandavas to the protection of the Lord. Key to the discussion is the concept of differentiating and the concept of dependence. And this point of dependence is going to continue in today's prayers. So thank you very much for all your feedback. Let us proceed. So we're covering today, we're going to cover the last of Queen Kunti's prayers, 37 to 43, appeal for more association. So now Queen Kunti's inner desire, inner intention is now going to be revealed. So let us hear Srila Prabhupada's prayers.
Apadanastam sapitehita prabho jihasa sisi twedono divina jisang nachanyam bhavata padambuja parayanam rajasum joditam asam apadanastam sapitehita prabho jihasasi suhidonujivina jesang natyanya bhavato padambuja Parayanam Rajasujoditang Hasam Devang Namarupabhyam Jadubhi Sahapandavam Bhavato Darshanam Jorishi Risikanam Nivesitu Niyam Savishati Tatra Jathidanim Gadadharam Tattvadairankita bhati Kalakshana Bilakshatan Ime Janapada Smidhyam Supakkamu Sadhirudham Vanadri Nadudunantam Vedante Tavaviksitam Atho Vishesha Vishatman Vishamute Sakeshme Snehopasam Siddhi Viram Pandusu Brisnisu Kaime Nanna Vishaya Mathur Madhupate Sraki Rati Mod Bhata Dadhya Gango Gamudannati Sri Krishna Krishna Sakha Krishna Sabhavanidhu Grajanna Vangsha Dahana Napavargabijam Govindam Godiran Suratiya Harabataram Yogeshwara Akhila Guru Bhagavan Namaste Shri Krishna Krishna Sakha Krishna Sabhavanidhu Rajanna Vangsha Dahana Napavagabijam Govindam Godidasurati Harabataram Yogeshwara Akhila Guru Bhagavan Namaste.
Jai Shri Prabhupada ki Jai. So this section of verses cover dependence and attachment to Krishna. When Kunti is bringing out this very, very clearly from her prayers, that our only shelter should be Krishna. And we see Sri Mahaprabhu, who appears in this world, Krishna appearing in this world as a devotee, is teaching by his own example the complete dependence on Krishna, one's only object of worship, Krishna, and the intensity of that attachment. That everything around becomes completely superfluous. One is so absorbed in Krishna's remembrance. Then the desire to always associate with the Lord. Sri Mahaprabhu was hankering, where is Krishna, where is Krishna? One time, Sri Mahaprabhu was speaking like this, where's Krishna, where's Krishna? And Gadadhar Pandit said, Krishna is in your heart as a super soul. And Sri Mahaprabhu immediately tried to open his chest because Krishna was there. And then when Gadadhar Pandit Prabhu saw this, immediately he started diverting the Lord's attention. Otherwise, the Lord would have pricked his heart. So in this way, the Lord is always anxious to find Krishna. Where is Krishna? Running into the ocean, running towards Vrindavan, looking for Krishna, trying to find Krishna. Then the next aspect of no material affection. Affection has to be there, but no material affection. And Srila Prabhupada in his purports will elaborate this when we get to that verse. So attachment to Krishna has to be cultivated. It's not something that is automatic. It's not going to come automatically. It has to be cultivated. You're not going to get a mango tree by you just going to sleep and take rest in the evening, get up in the morning, and there's your mango tree. Nope, it ain't going to happen. The mango tree, if you want a mango tree, you need to plant the seeds, you need to cultivate a mango tree. So similarly, Krishna consciousness, attachment to Krishna has to be cultivated, intentional cultivation. One has to consciously understand the need, the urgency, and do what's required to cultivate one's attachment, as well as avoid those things that wanes, that lessens, that dampens, that weakens one's attachment to Krishna. You would think this is common sense. Just like a businessman, he wants to increase profit. Therefore, he's going to do everything in his power to reduce the risk of loss, because he wants to increase profit. Similarly, if we want to increase attachment, we want to do everything in our power to reduce the impact of those activities that counteracts our attachment to Krishna. Both with our with all our faculties, mind, body, words, interaction with nature, interaction with devotees. And in every way, we have to be cautious. Queen Kunti starts her first prayer, text 37. So we heard last week about she glorified Krishna's appearance, and Krishna is now already on the chariot, and she's now basically asking Krishna, do you desire to leave us today? She offered so many prayers, and here now she's going to ask Krishna, are you leaving us? And Krishna responds, I have work at Dwarka. And in this verse, Queen Kunti uses a specific word, swa krite hita. All your works are accomplished automatically. So she's saying, Krishna, you're leaving us today? How can you leave us? And she's going to give a reason. But you're leaving us today, but you don't need to go to Dwarka for work, because just by you thinking, just by you desiring, work gets done. Swa krite hita. So Queen Kunti says, Apyadyanastvam swakrite hita prabho jihasasi swit surido nujivina ye samnachanyad bhavata padam bhujat parayanam rajasuyo jitam hasam. O my Lord, you have executed all duties yourself. Are you leaving us today? Though we are completely dependent on your mercy and have no one else to protect us. Now, when all kings are at enmity with us. So she's now presenting her desire that, my Lord, please don't leave. Please stay. How can you leave us? We are completely dependent on your mercy, and therefore, if you leave, we're going to be bereft of that mercy. And because you have been with us, you have protected us amidst all the dangers, but the dangers have not subsided. In fact, the dangers have increased. Srila Prabhupada is going to expand on that. The dangers have increased. especially with the family members of all the kings we have killed. So Prabhupada starts off the purport. The Pandavas are the most fortunate because with all good luck, they were entirely dependent on the mercy of the Lord. In the material world, to be dependent on the mercy of someone else is the utmost sign of misfortune. But in the case of our transcendental relation with the Lord, it is the most fortunate case when we can live completely dependent on Him. Material disease is due to thinking of becoming independent of everything. So the Prabhupada starts off the purport to create a very clear distinction. In the material world, people want to be independent. To be dependent on someone is very unfortunate. It's a sign of misfortune. Whereas in the spiritual realm, to be dependent on the pure devotee, to be dependent on the Supreme Lord, this is the greatest fortune. Now, in the material world, when one depends on people, they will exploit you because it is the nature of the material world. In the spiritual world, there is no question of exploitation. One may be exploited just like in our society. We have, in our history of the Hare Krishna movement, there have been so many forms of exploitation, unfortunate events in the Gurukul, in the temples. This is very unfortunate. This is not Krishna consciousness. This is not Prabhupada's, and this is not Prabhupada's teachings. It's not Krishna consciousness. This is exploitation. This is independent misuse of power, control. And no doubt, reactions will be there. But real Krishna consciousness means that when one depends on the Supreme Lord, there's protection. So if the Pandavas were completely dependent on Krishna, this is the greatest good fortune. Then Prabhupada gives a very, very important statement in terms of the disease that is plaguing this material world. The material disease is due to thinking of becoming independent of everything. You want to become the master. You want to practically be the Lord and master, because only Krishna is Swarat, independent. The first verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam makes it very clear. Abhigna Swarat. Krishna is fully cognizant and he's independent. He's the only independent personality. No other person is independent. Everybody is dependent. But in the material world, because people have come to this world to be Krishna, then they want to cultivate this quality of independence. I'm independent. Therefore, I don't need people in my life, or I don't want to surrender to people or be accountable to people, etc. His Holiness Tama Krishna Maharaj once said in lecture that the greatest devotees are those devotees that are bound by the order of the spiritual master. They are dependent on that shelter. But the cruel material nature does not allow us to become independent. So the disease, generally when you have a disease, you are forced with symptoms. So when we have a material disease, we're forced with the symptoms. And what is that symptom? Thinking I'm independent of everything. And that symptom of thinking I'm independent allows me to act in certain ways. But Prabhupada says the cruel material nature. Why? Because the materialists will think, oh yeah, it's unfortunate. This material nature is behaving in unfortunate ways. It's not fair. So the cruel material nature does not allow us to become independent. The false attempt to become independent of the stringent laws of nature is known as material advancement of experimental knowledge. Now Prabhupada is pulling the cat out of the bag in terms of reality, in terms of what, because somebody may say, well, yeah, I don't want to become independent. No, I'm, it's not like I want to lord it of material nature. No, I'm okay. Just like a doctor will be able to identify a fever. A layman may not identify a fever, but a doctor will immediately test your forehead and say, oh, you have a fever. So the doctor understands the disease, he understands the symptoms of the disease. So Prabhupada is diagnosing the disease. We want to become independent. And what is the symptom of the disease? Or how is it manifested? The whole material world is moving on this false attempt of becoming independent. Sorry. The false attempt to become independent, stringent laws of nature is known as material advancement of experimental knowledge. So this whole concept of advancing, material advancement by experimenting, this really is a symptom of a deep-rooted disease. And people are proud of material advancement. Oh, just see, we're advancing. We got so much technologies. We're better than, they talk about the historic times where people are in the caves and they're in the forest and they're wild and they're running. It's amazing how these motivational speakers, every time I hear them, they talk about, oh yes, we were in the jungles and we were hunting, and like, very ancient, like very outdated dinosaur type of lifestyle. And now we've advanced. 5,000 years ago, the Pandavas were not in the jungle hunting like cavemen. They were living in Indraprasth. See, so this is the misfortune, and life has been going on for 150 billion years. It's not like we have been cavemen. So this is the disease when we think material advancement is really advancement. The whole material world is moving on this false attempt of becoming independent of the laws of nature, beginning from Ravana, who wanted to prepare a direct staircase to the planets of heaven, down to the present age. They are trying to overcome the laws of nature. They are trying to approach, they are trying now to approach distant planetary systems by electronic mechanical power. SpaceX, they're going to the moon, they're flying to the moon. So this is so-called advancement. But the highest goal of human civilization is to work hard under the guidance of the Lord and become completely dependent on Him. Such a powerful statement in terms of our direction, our goal, our aspiration. The highest goal of civilization, human civilization, it's not for animals, it's not for the cats and dogs. It's for human civilization. And what's the highest goal? It's not to be lazy under the guidance of the Lord. No, it's to work hard. As I mentioned, one has to cultivate Krishna consciousness. And you cannot cultivate Krishna consciousness whimsically, lackadaisically. Oh yeah, it's like a part-time business. Once a week, Sunday program. No, this is not Krishna consciousness. This is not spiritual life. If it's a once a week affair, you will get once a week results. So Prabhupada make it very clear, work hard. And work hard, not with your own guidance, not with your own thinking, not with what you want to do, but under the guidance of the Lord, and become completely dependent on Him. And this is not easy. Why? Because the false ego will allow you to take credits. Just see, I did everything. I was able to do this. Because of this lording over material nature, when Krishna gives us abilities, we misunderstand that it is my power, it is my doing, it is my intelligence, it is my ability, it is me who cultivated those skills, and it is I who am now doing things even in Krishna consciousness and getting the results. Just see how great I am. So therefore, under the guidance of the Lord and become completely dependent on Queen Kunti, is presenting this very deep Krishna conscious understanding, and this is her purity, her heart, because she's a pure devotee. She's revealing this so that we can grasp. For us to be Krishna conscious, for us to journey on this path of Krishna consciousness, what is the traits, what is the symptom that will dictate that I am moving on the right path? The highest achievement of perfect civilization is to work with valor, but at the same time depend completely on the Lord. Note, as I'm reading through the purport, how many times did Srila Prabhupada use the word completely dependent, complete dependence? Just in these few sentences, Prabhupada's emphasizing this point, complete dependence. It is not a weakness. It is a jewel on the body of the pure devotee. It's an exalted quality. So the highest achievement of perfect civilization is to work with valor. Again, not laziness, hard work, vitality, energy, enthusiasm, vigor. But at the same time, depend completely on the Lord. And we discussed this also previously. In everything you do, you want to work hard like the result depends on you. And when you get the result, you understand clearly that it is all by the mercy of the Lord. So working hard, at the same time, the consciousness is total dependence on Krishna in terms of the outcome. The Pandavas were the ideal executors of this standard of civilization. So Prabhupada gives the philosophy, the practice, the theory, the underlining culture. And then somebody may say, oh, but where's the reality? Where's the example? Well, the Pandavas were perfect examples. The whole Mahabharata war was a perfect example. Arjuna fought valiantly. It was a real war. It wasn't a simulation. It wasn't a virtual reality. Real war. His life was been threatened, but total dependence on Krishna. Undoubtedly, they were completely dependent on the goodwill of Lord Shri Krishna, but they were not idle parasites of the Lord. So just see, Prabhupada used the word work hard, valor, and now idle parasites. I'll just relax and depend on Krishna. Krishna, make everything happen, please. I'm hungry. Can I get some food? I need money. Please, can I get some money? Or I need this done. Can we get this done? No, it's not about idle parasites. Very often we join a society like Krishna consciousness. And because we join the society, we expect the society to do everything for us. We expect now, because I've joined the society, now everything needs to happen. Everything needs to be perfect. Everything needs to be according to my call. No. We join a society where Prabhupada is giving us the guidance, association, but it is us who needs to be able to offer something in return to Srila Prabhupada's mission in whatever way we can. They were all highly qualified, both by personal character and by physical activities. In the material world, many people are very qualified physically. but inside it's empty. It's hollow. Or it may even be worse, it's filled with dirt. So nice packaging. It's like having a nice, beautiful gift box with a bomb inside. Or beautiful box with some stool inside. Madhuri is saying, example of, Prabhupada gave an example of a serpent with a jewel on the head. You want the jewel and you're going to get bitten by the snake. So this is the nature of people's character in this world. We want to cultivate the character of, or the personality where physically we are qualified, we are active, and internally we have the highest character of Krishna consciousness. When both are there, then you find there's happiness. When one is lacking, there will always be suffering. Still, they always looked for the mercy of the Lord because they knew that every living being is dependent by constitutional position. So even though the Pandavas had excellent qualities, they were amazing persons. They were like in the Aryan race, amazing traits and qualities. And physically, they were also expert, both in terms of skills, in terms of vigor, vitality, energy. They had amazing ability to think, to protect. So in all areas, they were exemplary. In fact, the 5 Pandavas basically put together cannot be compared to any human being on this planet. They represent the perfection, the epitome of a perfect human being. So even with that caliber, still, they always look for the mercy of the Lord. It's a very interesting quality. Because someone who is expert will never want to depend on something, which is the disease of the material world. Whereas the Pandavas were expert and yet totally dependent on the mercy of the Lord. We see Arjuna had this clear graphic realization that even though he was expert with all his skills, when Krishna left this planet, he was attacked even with some coward boys. And he realized that actually my skills, my abilities were only due to the mercy of Krishna. And now because Krishna has left, even those abilities have no potency. So he had a clear realization, it wasn't me. It wasn't my abilities and my powers, etc. No, it was simply Krishna's mercy that I was able to do what I achieved in terms of the outcome throughout my life. Still, they always look for the mercy of the Lord because they knew that every living being is dependent by constitutional position. The perfection of life is therefore to become dependent on the will of the Lord instead of becoming falsely independent in the material world. Those who try to become falsely independent of the Lord are called anatta, or without any guardians. Whereas those who are completely dependent on the will of the Lord are called sanata, or those having someone to protect them. Therefore, we must try to become sanata, so that we can always be protected from the unfavorable condition of material existence. Now, someone may say, okay, so what is the benefit of depending on Krishna? And Prabhupada is saying, if you depend on Krishna, you become sanata, you have a master, then we can always be protected from the unfavorable conditions of material existence. Well, what are the unfavorable conditions of material existence? So while I'm going through the rest of the purport, you can type in what you think, one or two words, few words, what do you think are the unfavorable conditions of material existence? And we're going to touch again on this when we come to another purport of Srila Prabhupada, where he's going to explain what is that unfavorable condition, right? But we can, Prabhupada's making the point, we can be sheltered, we can get the protection of Krishna, we can get this shelter. And in terms of Sanata, Prabhupada would give the example, just like in India, you have stray dogs. So stray dogs mean anatta. Here you see a picture of a stray dog. They're very skinny, unkept, diseased. Maybe they have possibly met in accidents, not kept. You can see they're basically stranded, unfortunate. Look at their expressions on their face, very sad, hungry, starving, struggling for survival. This is anatta. This is our condition. Now, I could take that anatta dog and I could wrap him up with a nice jacket, beautiful cloth, nice furry jacket, and give him a nice mask. And he looks, he's so nice. That is our situation in this material world. Right? The reality is, look a little deeper. And Prabhupada is revealing that inside. The converse is to be Sanata. And the picture on the bottom here, you see this dog, he's got a master. Even though we know it's the other way around. But yes, he's got somebody looking after him. So he's got someone looking after him. He's taken care, he's given love, he's given shelter, he's given food. And the dog's very happy. He's energetic, excited, looks healthy. So when we have Krishna as our only shelter, then we become Sanata. And then there's no fear, there's no anxiety, at least no material fear, no material anxiety. By the deluding power of the external material nature, we forget that the material condition of life is the most undesirable perplexity. So now Prabhupada is making the point, because somebody may raise the question, right? Well, if this is the case, I mean, Prabhupada is making it so clear, then why don't people get it? And Prabhupada is saying the reason they don't get it is because the deluding power of the material energy allows them to forget. They're in the most precarious situation, right? The most undesirable perplexity. They don't want it, it's perplexed, they're covered. It's one of the potencies of the material energy. Material energy has two potencies. One is the covering potency, and the one is throwing potency. The material energy covers you and then throws you. And I'm sure many of you had the experience in your own Krishna consciousness that now when you look back to your life and you think, wow, was I so covered to do that? Was I so covered that I never read that or never got that, never, that didn't strike me? So this is the covering potency. The Bhagavad Gita therefore directs us, 7:19, that after many, many births, one fortunate person becomes aware of the fact that Vasudev is all in all, and that the best way of leading one's life is to surrender unto him partially, once a week, once a quarter, once a year. No, completely. And that is the message that we can glean from this prayer of Queen Kunti. How can I completely depend and surrender to Krishna? That is a sign of a Mahatma. That is our goal. All the members of the Pandava family were Mahatmas in household life. Now someone may say, well, but Prabhu, I'm not a sannyasi. The sannyasis, they can do that. I'm not a sannyasi, so it's fine. No, it's not fine. Whether you're brahmachari, whether you're grihastha, whether you're vanaprastha, whether you're sannyasi, it does not matter. Every single one of us have to completely depend on Krishna. Now, is it easy? No. Is it possible? Yes. Do you have to put work into it? Yes. Do you have to understand why? Yes. So again, it's cultivation. When you know the benefit of that, just like, again, a businessman, if he wants to set up a business, he knows it's not going to be easy. In fact, if somebody wants to start a business thinking it's child's play, already they fail. That's why most businesses fail in the first 5 years. 95% of the businesses fail within the first 5 years. Why? Because people have the misconception it's easy. Oh, you have to put hard work. You need proper skills. You need to tolerate. You need to go through challenges. Similarly in Krishna consciousness, we have to be convinced of the goal. Once we convince of the goal and we have sufficient reason, we have 108 whys of why it is so beneficial for us, then we can face any obstacle that comes in our way. And by Krishna's mercy, we are able to overcome those obstacles. Yudhishthira was the head of these Mahatmas, and Queen Kunti was the mother. The lessons of the Bhagavad Gita and all the Puranas, specifically the Bhagavad Puran, are therefore inevitably connected with the history of the Pandava Mahatmas. For them, separation from the Lord was just like the separation of a fish from water. Separation from the Lord was just like separation of a fish from water. Now here's the most astounding thing. The fish out of water suffers. We are already in that situation. We have already been separated from the Lord. And how do we feel? Life's great. We're okay. And why is that the case? Because of the covering potency. We forget. And the pure devotee, Om Jnana Timirandasya, they open our eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. Prabhupada is opening our eyes and saying, see, this is the reality. And the more we begin to experience the reality, the more we will begin to see that when Krishna is not in my life, I suffer. Or as I move into the proper direction, which means I'm getting healthier, then you find that your desire to be with Krishna increases. Your desire to be more attached to Krishna increases. You don't want to be separated from Krishna. This desire manifests. The Pandavas were already pure devotees. Therefore, when the Lord is leaving, they don't want to be separated from the Lord. Srimati Kunti Devi therefore felt such separation like a thunderbolt. And the whole prayer of the queen is to try to persuade the Lord to stay with them. So this is the prayer. My Lord, please don't leave. Please don't leave. Now, can they stop the Lord from leaving? Maybe, maybe not. The Lord is independent. The Lord is also controlled by love. So yes, the Lord may. In fact, the Lord did stay behind for a few more days. But the point is that it's not a selfish interest. It's the fact that because of her being a pure devotee, because of her love, because of the Pandavas' love for Krishna, they don't want to be separated from Krishna. This is the attachment we need to cultivate. So consider it practically. I'm chanting the holy name of Krishna, I'm with Krishna, I don't want to put my bead back down. But if you, in my case, as soon as I finish 16 rounds, then I put the bead back down, now I can do other things. So that's not attachment. Attachment means that you're going from 1, 2, 3, 10, 11, 12, 13. The closer you're going to 16, 17, 18, you don't want to leave your bead bag. You want to continue. That is advancement. That is attachment. We need to cultivate that attachment. I'm sure many of you have experienced when you go for a nice Krishna conscious program associating with devotees. And the program is nice, you want to stay amidst the association devotees, you don't want to leave. Now, we're not talking about you don't want to leave because you're socializing and you're talking Gramya Katha. No, we talk about the fact that Krishna, that the program is so Krishna conscious that you don't want to leave. Or you're serving the deities and you don't want to leave. You're serving the devotees and you don't want to stop. This is attachment. This is conducive. This is important. This is powerful. Srimati Kunti Deva felt such separation like a thunderbolt, and the whole prayer of the queen is to try to persuade the Lord to stay with them. After the battle of Kurukshetra, although the inimical kings were killed, their sons and grandsons were still there to deal with the Pandavas. It is not only the Pandavas who were put into condition of enmity, but all of us are always in such a condition. And the best way of living is to become completely dependent on the will of the Lord and thereby overcome all difficulties of material existence. In relation to this point, it is very important to appreciate that even the Pandavas, they were Mahatmas, even they had enemies. So if you have enemies in this world, for whatever reason, people don't like what you have, people don't like that you're progressing, whatever reason may be there, it is not a surprise. But we find that the Pandavas did not want to increase the enmity. So if we have enemies, we don't want to increase the animosity. We still want to maintain the service attitude and not counteract enmity with enmity, because then you will get implicated in the cycle of karma again. If we have enemies, the solution is to completely depend on the will of the Lord. Let Krishna decide the direction. In this regard, in regards to Prabhupada's beautiful purport and Queen Kunti's beautiful prayer, that my Lord, please don't leave. We are completely dependent on you. We have no other person we depend on. We depend on your protection, nobody else. Therefore, you cannot leave. The example, another beautiful example that illustrates these beautiful lessons is of Hanuman. When Sita Devi was captured by Ravana and they were in the Ashok garden, Ashok Vati, at one point, Sita Devi was so heartbroken with the situation that she had, with her braid of hair, she decided to create a noose to hang herself and kill herself. She was in such desperation. And at that time, Hanuman arrived. And when Hanuman saw this, he decided he has to give her some hope. So immediately Hanuman presented himself to Mother Sita, gave the ring that Lord Ram had given to Hanuman, or yet the ornament to show that this is from Lord Ram. And when Sita Devi got this sheet, there was hope again. And there was a discussion. So then Hanuman said, Mother, why don't I just put you on a back and I can take you back to Lord Ram? Problem solved. And Mother Sita said, no. I don't touch any other man, and that's not the right solution. I have been captured here, and therefore that's not the right solution. That'll be embarrassing. So then Hanuman said, okay, why don't I fly back and I bring Lakshman and Lord Ram and Lakshman on my shoulders and bring them to you. And then you can go. He can take you. No. That's also not the proper solution. So then Hanuman said, okay, what if I just pick up Lanka and take Lanka? Would you? And then you can go that side. Mother Sita laughs and said, no, so innocent, no. Sita Devi said, my Lord has to come, cross the ocean and come himself here. And then Sita Devi is saying, but Hanuman, how did you cross the ocean? And Hanuman said, my Lord, Hanuman said, my mother, my dear Sita, Mother Sita, that's nothing for me. In fact, all the army, the whole army that the Lord has, every single one of them is either equal or greater than me. I'm nothing. So they all can come and cross the ocean. I didn't do anything amazing. And Hanuman gives a beautiful analogy. He says, actually, how I came across, it's not my ability. I didn't do anything. I am just like an arrow. And we see this beautiful picture here, the arrow. Hanuman says, I am the arrow. I am like the arrow. And the string that's on the bow, that is the holy name. And when you put the arrow, when you put me, with that string, it is the string that pushes the arrow. It's not the arrow that has the ability to fly. But the arrow is made to fly. But the power to fly comes from the potency of the string. And the holy name is that potency, the holy name of Ram. So my dear Mother Sita, all I did was I just chanted, Jai Shri Ram. And there was, I crossed the ocean. So I didn't do anything. It was the Lord's name. And therefore everyone can have that potency. So Hanuman was completely dependent on the mercy of the holy name, on the mercy of the Lord. Even though he was fully qualified. And we know it was only he who was qualified to cross the ocean. So does that mean that when Hanuman is telling Mother Sita this, that he is lying? It's like false humility, and he's lying that, how can they all be equal or greater? No. Firstly, Hanuman's humility is that it is not my abilities that made me fly. And it is the mercy of the Lord that he gave me the abilities to fly. And just as the mercy of the Lord, just as Krishna, as Lord Ramachandra gave me the mercy to fly, he can give the mercy to every other member of that army to fly. and to cross the ocean. Now we know that everyone did cross the ocean, maybe not in the same way, but everybody did cross the ocean. So the Lord can give every single individual the same ability to do what you're doing. Therefore, we should never be proud of borrowed potency. Prabhupada in the purport, the Bhagavatam says we shouldn't be proud of borrowed plumes. You know, people have a hat and they have these feathers and very proud. No, we have to be very careful. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Maharaj, when the disciples would say, Guru Maharaj, should we preach here in this area? Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Maharaj would say, if Krishna so wills, if Krishna so desires. They were fully dependent. Prabhupada taught us that for every prayer we should say, my Lord, if you so desire, totally dependent on Krishna. So the example of Hanuman, having full confidence in the power of Krishna. This is real humility. Humility doesn't mean I think of myself low, but really humility means I think of the Lord as the highest. When I think of the Lord as the highest, automatically I will be low. And if the Lord is the highest, the Lord is the most powerful, then that means that the Lord can do anything. The Lord has unlimited potencies. And if the Lord, who is independent, he can decide to empower every living entity to do far more than what I have achieved. This is the quality we need to cultivate on this journey of reviving our attachment to Krishna. That if Krishna so desire, we can become that arrow. And with the holy name, let the holy name empower us to do what the holy name desires and never take credit. Yes, the credit is that I'm like an arrow. And by being an arrow, I can maximize the mercy that I've been given by the Lord, the abilities that I've been given by the Lord. I can move through air swiftly because I'm designed like that. I'm aerodynamic. I'm Krishna dynamic. I'm able to move with Krishna's mercy, but I want to be an arrow in the first place. If you have a circle and you put a circle with that string is not going to work. I need to be an arrow. So let me become an arrow. And once I become an arrow, then I can pray to the Lord, my Lord, please put me on that bow and allow that string of the holy name to launch me in the direction that you desire and achieve the desired result. And in this way, understanding that everything is dependent and achieved by the will and the mercy of the Lord. Text 38. So Queen Kunti tells Krishna, my Lord, you can't leave because we need your protection. And Krishna responds, but Bhima and Arjuna are very powerful. The king is Dharma personified, and the Yadavas are your friends. You have no worries. So it's okay, let me go. So she says, Kevayam nama rupabhyam yadudi sahapandava bhavato darshanam yarhi rishikanam ivesitu. As the name and fame of a particular body is finished with the disappearance of the living spirit, similarly, if you do not look upon us, all your fame, all our fame and activities, along with the Pandavas and the Yadavas, will end at once. So when Krishna said, Arjuna is there, is powerful, Bhima is powerful, Yudhishthira is there, all of Yadavas are powerful, you have nothing to worry. Queen Kunti's response is, my Lord, just as when the spirit soul leaves the body, then the name, fame, potencies of the body totally vanish, disappears. Similarly, when you leave, when you are not looking upon us, when you are leaving now, that's the same situation. Arjuna, Bhima, King Yudhishthira, the others, they all become powerless. And Arjuna had that clear realization, as we mentioned. Prabhupada in the purport says, Kunti Devi is quite aware that the existence of the Pandavas is due to Shri Krishna only. Again, this dependence, it is simply by the mercy. See, totally converse to material consciousness. We're independent. Yeah, my Lord, we totally depend on you. If you leave, we're finished. We're powerless. The Pandavas are undoubtedly well established in name and fame, and are guided by the great King Yudhishthira, who is morality personified, and the Yadus are undoubtedly great allies. But without the guidance of Lord Krishna, all of them are non-entities. And as much as the senses of the body are useless without the guidance of consciousness. No one should be proud of his prestige, power, and fame without being guided by the favor of the Supreme Lord. The living beings are always dependent, and the ultimate dependable object is the Lord himself. So here is the illusion that Prabhupada was talking in the previous purport, that people want to be independent, yet they're totally dependent. If you are dependent completely and that's your nature, you are constitutionally designed to be dependent. Therefore, if you are trying to be independent, that is an illusion. It's like a fish trying to fly. It's not possible. The fish is meant to be in water. It's meant to swim. Or a bird trying to swim. It's not possible. So our nature is to be dependent. And if our nature is to be dependent, then don't depend on your abilities. Don't depend on the scientists' abilities. Don't depend on the politicians. Don't depend on the banks. Don't depend on material nature. Don't depend on the security guards. Depend on Krishna. Cultivate the highest level of dependence, which is on Krishna. Now, when you cultivate the highest level of dependence on Krishna, you can engage all the other secondary forms of dependable objects in the service of Krishna. But your ultimate dependable object is always Krishna. Just like Arjuna is on the battlefield. He's got a Gandiva bow. He depends on the Gandiva bow. He depends on the ability that he has to use the Gandiva bow. He's depending on the mantras to invoke the appropriate arrows to use the Gandiva bow. So he's depending on the chariot. He's depending on the charioteer. In this case, the Supreme Lord Krishna. So in every situation, he's got elements that he's depending on, but the ultimate dependable object is Lord Krishna. Because in some situations when the chariot does not help, the Gandiva bow doesn't help, the arrows don't help, the mantras don't help, Krishna will help. Lord Krishna will come to the rescue. So this is our goal. We need to cultivate the ultimate dependable object. I like to take this a little more practically and change that statement. We need to ultimately, we need the ultimate dependable object, the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So we need to surrender our lives completely to the Lord that has appeared in this world as the Hare Krishna mantra. We need to surrender, chant, dedicate, depend completely, offer our lives 100% to the Hare Krishna mantra. We want to fulfill the desire of the Hare Krishna mantra. This is Krishna consciousness. This is what spiritual life is all about. We may therefore invent our advancement of material knowledge, all sorts of counteracting material resources, but without being guided by the Lord, all such inventions end in fiasco, however strong and stout the reactionary elements may be. Now Prabhupada is giving the converse effect if you don't follow his advice. His advice is we need to depend on Krishna. We need to be completely dependent on Krishna. We need to have Krishna as our guide. If we invent, which is what people are doing in this world, they're inventing all forms of material knowledge and all forms of counteracting resources to live happily in this world. If you're doing that, what is the converse? What is the result? One word: fiasco. It's going to end into a fiasco, a disaster. This is the nature. And it doesn't matter how expert, doesn't matter how strong your invention is, how intelligent your invention is, how supersonic your invention is, how futuristic your invention is, whether it's driven by AI or whatever, it's going to end in a fiasco. And you may be thinking, well, no, we're making advancement, we're moving in the right, things are going nice. It's going to end in a fiasco. So here's some examples of the fiasco that it may end up in. Titanic, as an example. They said, we built a ship that even God cannot sink. Really? And it sank. Titanic disaster, great loss of life. Why? Because you were trying to become independent, become the Lord of the ocean. No, the ocean already has a Lord. You just become subservient and behave. But no, we show you. Okay, what? Fiasco. That's the fiasco. Okay, we create big towers, high scraping towers, skyscrapers. Just see, we're advancing. Oh, really? You're advancing with tall, very tall buildings. One time Prabhupada was looking at his buildings with his cane. He said, one day it will be finished. Fiasco. So you're building like a child going to the beach and making beautiful sand castles and, oh, just see, I'm so great. And all it requires is either for the parents to one hand stroke or the ocean to come and taken away. So you're building big skyscrapers and people are empty inside. They're using those same high skyscrapers and jumping off the buildings. You see people are jumping off the buildings, committing suicide. That's your skyscrapers, fiasco. Or like another example, there was a city that got impacted by the tsunami. So then the people in the city decided, okay, we need to sort the tsunami out and the impact. So what they did, they built huge walls between the beach, the city and the ocean to protect the city from the tsunami. So they created this huge wall, 30 meters, whatever, how high the wall, to protect from a tsunami. And then what happened, there was an earthquake and this whole huge wall that was surrounding the city crumbled on the city and crushed people. kill the people. Fiasco. Why? Because you're trying to become independent. Or we are very, medical science is advancing to such a rate that we can cure diseases. Oh, yes. One simple, insignificant disease like COVID practically brought the whole planet to a standstill. And you may find a vaccine and you may find a solution to a disease, but guess what will happen? Another disease will come. You'll get a disease of a disease, and you can never stop diseases. People have been trying for billions and billions and billions of years, and still the common flu is as common as it gets. It's still there. Why? Because you're trying to become independent. It's going to end in a fiasco. Oh, no, we're going to cure death. Okay, really? We can freeze your body. And we'll freeze your body and we'll keep it there. When you die or when you're dead, we freeze your body. We'll have the technology in future to bring you back to life. You come back and you'll be yourself. Really? It's going to end in a fiasco. People are trying to stay young forever. They want to get old. They're trying so many ways to keep young. Through skin surgery and different ointments and whatever. It's going to end in fiasco. So this is what Prabhupada is bringing to light. A wrong solution will always lead to fiasco. The right solution is what Kunti is presenting. Simply depend on Krishna. Understand your situation. You are dependent. We are part and parcel of Krishna. Surrender to the Lord and return back to the spiritual world. You will be happy. Text 39. Nayam sobhishyate tatra yate danim gadadara tvat padeir aniktabati swa lakshana vilakshitai. O Gadadhar, Krishna, our kingdom is now being marked by the impressions of your lotus feet, and therefore it appears beautiful. But when you leave, it will no longer be so. So she's giving different reasons and motivating Krishna to stay. So now she's giving another reason. That the fact that your lotus feet were imprinting our land, Hastinapur, Indrapast, it was auspicious. You're blessed. Now your feet are leaving. And when you're leaving, my Lord, your feet are leaving. It's going to create inauspiciousness, my Lord. Therefore, please, please don't leave. Prabhupada in the purport says, there are certain particular marks on the feet of the Lord which distinguish the Lord from others. So you can look under your feet and see, do you have these marks? And when you look at these marks, don't use your imagination, right? Don't use imagination. Yeah, that looks like a thunderbolt. No. No imagination required, right? It should be like a thunderbolt, right? If you see the picture here, you can see very clear markings. There's the fish, there's the conch shell, there's the chakra, there's the bow. It looks very clear. You don't need to have imagination. No imagination. Don't use AI, right? Just see, do you have the markings? I normally say when people say, I'm God, I'm an incarnation of God. Oh yeah? Let's see your feet. Let's see your hands. If we don't find these things, we may chop them off. The marks of a flag, thunderbolt, the instrument to drive an elephant, the boat, umbrella, lotus, disc, etc., on the bottom of the Lord's feet. This is how we identify. When we say Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself, he's Radha and Krishna combined. Under the feet of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, under the feet, and under his hands and feet, there were these markings. This is how it's distinguished, that these are transcendental personalities. This is the Supreme Lord. We cannot accept people who claim God whimsically, claim to be God whimsically. This is foolish. It's also explained that great souls have markings like this. This is how the Lord covered his tracks. Nobody can, imitate, pretend to be the Lord. And it's not like the impression is dead, 1 week, and then you tell someone, no, it was there and it disappeared. No disappearing act. It's there forever. From the time the child is a baby, born, from the time Krishna was a baby, the markings were there, and eternally the markings stay. These marks are impressed upon the soft dust of the land where the Lord traverses. The land of Hastinapur was thus marked while Lord Krishna was there with the Pandavas, and the kingdom of the Pandavas thus flourished by such auspicious signs. Kunti Devi pointed out these distinguished features and was afraid of ill luck in the absence of the Lord. So it's interesting, in the purports that we already covered, Prabhupada used this good luck, in relation not to Tatamachans, but in relation to the Lord. If the Lord is in my life, I'm so fortunate, I'm lucky. And if the Lord is leaving my life, I'm so unfortunate, ill luck, unlucky. This is how we measure good fortune. Every one of us have received good fortune in the form of the Hare Krishna mantra, in the form of Srila Prabhupada, in the form of prasadam, in the form of association, in the form of the deities, in the form of Bhagavatam, in the form of Bhagavad Gita, in the form of service. Prabhupada, in his lecture 1973, says everything will look very beautiful when Krishna is there. So Kunti Devi is thinking that when Krishna will be absent, this kingdom will not be beautiful. So long Krishna is with us, we Pandavas, our kingdom, Hastinapur, everything beautiful. It is said, Put Pader Anikata Pati. Krishna, you are now in our kingdom, you are walking. So by the impressions of your footprints, everything is beautiful. There is sufficient supply of food, fruits, water, everything looks beautiful. But when you leave us, then it will not look beautiful. That is been described. So where there is Krishna, where there is the Vaishnavas, that is beauty. When there is no Krishna, and when there is no Vaishnavas, then that is not beautiful. It is not the scenery, the stones, the rivers, the sunset, the birds, the trees that really represent true beauty. True beauty is when Hari, Guru, Vaishnava, Bhagavata, Gita is there. Then Prabhupada says, because you are in Krishna consciousness, you look very beautiful. You are all boys and girls. When you were outside this Krishna consciousness, just think over, your beauty was there, but at present moment, because you are in Krishna consciousness, you look very, very beautiful. That's a fact. So what is the fact now? What was fact before? During 5,000 years ago, when Pandavas were there, that Krishna is the center, everything becomes beautiful. That can be done at any time. Krishna is always there. Simply, you have to invite him. My Lord, please come and be in the center. That's all. Everything will be beautiful. Such a powerful point by Prabhupada. People make the remark, there's so many challenges, so many difficulties, whether it's in a family, individually, in your own spiritual life, in the society, in the country, in the nation. We need to do something. What you want to do? There's nothing you have to do. The solution is very simple. Here's the solution. Simply, you have to invite Krishna. And Prabhupada is even telling us how to do that. My Lord, please come and be in the center. That's all. And everything will be beautiful. If you do that individually, if you do that with your family, you do that with your society, you do that with the nation, you do that with the country, you do that with the universe, you do that with creation, you're beautiful. Goloka Vrindavan is beautiful. Why? Not so much because of Chintamani, but because Krishna is the center. And why is everything else ugly? Is because we want to be the center. Now, when you say, my Lord, please come and be in the center of my life, of my family, of my society, of my existence, naturally, the Lord is going to ask, you sure? You serious? You really want that? The lip service? Yeah, my Lord, let me think about it. So the solution is simple if you're serious. Very simple. And those who do this, they will experience the truth of what Srila Prabhupada is saying. So Queen Kunti has realized this. She's not just saying it, she means it. That my Lord, your lotus feet are leaving this place. And therefore, my Lord, it's not going to be beautiful enough. Please, please don't leave. So she already said, my Lord, if you leave, we don't have protection. If you leave, we're going to be powerless. There's not going to be any beauty. Let's forward wind. Krishna eventually does go to Dwarka. So if Krishna eventually went to Dwarka, does that mean that the Pandavas became powerless, they became ugly, and they were not protected? And the answer is no. Why? Because even though Krishna left, Krishna leaving intensified their attachment to Krishna. Krishna leaving intensified their remembrance of Krishna. So even though Krishna left, they became even more Krishna conscious. Krishna was even more in their life by them remembering Krishna, by them serving Krishna, by them keeping Krishna in the center. In this regard, His Holiness Tripurari Swami shares his experience, an example. What had happened was, Prabhupada was arriving where he was serving, and they came to the airport. It was Friday, about 3:30, and hundreds of devotees received Prabhupada, and it was a wonderful reception. And then they were now going to leave to the temple, and all the devotees were rushing to go into their vehicles to also be with Prabhupada. And Tripurari Swami, who was a book distributor, very empowered book distributor, he was on Friday, he knew that Friday is actually the best day. Friday, it's busy. And there he is, and he's genuinely desired to also go and be with Srila Prabhupada. Right? So it's not that he didn't want to be with Prabhupada, he wanted to be with Prabhupada, but he also was thinking, today is Friday. Right now I'm at a time where there's so many souls that can receive Prabhupada's books. At the same time, I also want to go with Prabhupada. But Prabhupada would want me to, not to miss this opportunity to serve. So he decided to stay and continue distributing books. And he shared that because of that decision, the books were just going out. People were just taking books. It was like he could feel the mercy, he could feel Prabhupada's presence, and the books were just going out. And then when he finished his service and now he was going back to the temple, as he was going back to the temple, there were so many intersections that he had to cross, and every single traffic light was green. And he was thinking, just see, even the traffic lights are green, allowing me to go to Srila Prabhupada. And when he came to the temple, the devotees were telling him, actually, Prabhupada was thinking about you. Prabhupada was asking where you are. Prabhupada was glorifying you. So even though he was not with Srila Prabhupada, in service to Srila Prabhupada, serving in separation, he was even more with Srila Prabhupada, and Prabhupada was thinking of him. So like that, even though Krishna leaves eventually, the Pandavas, Queen Kunti, in separation from Krishna, are even more Krishna conscious. But while they have the opportunity here, she is praying to Krishna, please don't go. Text 40. Ime jana padas svridam supak bau sadivi rudam vanadri nadyo danvato ye dan te tava vikshitai. All these cities and villages are flourishing in all respects because the herbs and grains are in abundance. The trees are full of fruits. The rivers are flowing. The hills are full of minerals, and oceans full of wealth. And this is all due to your glancing over them. So now here's the power of Krishna's glance. We find when Lord Ramachandra, it is described that he shot an arrow when he asked the ocean to give way, and the ocean didn't give way. There's two descriptions. One is he shot an arrow and practically the ocean started to boil. The other description is the Lord just glanced at the ocean, and with his glance, he boiled the ocean. So Krishna's glance is very powerful. We know that Krishna can perform any function with any of his senses because his body is transcendental. So just by Krishna glancing, all auspiciousness, all abundance is there. When Krishna is present, there is abundance. When Krishna is not present, there is poverty. So as devotees, we need to connect with Krishna, and we connect with Krishna, there cannot be poverty in every aspect. So here Queen Kunti is saying, because of your glance, because of your presence, because of your lotus feet, we had abundance of resources. And Prabhupada gives a very beautiful purport. Human prosperity flourishes by natural gifts and not by gigantic industrial enterprises. So how do we measure prosperity? How do we measure our level of advancement? It is not by gigantic industrial enterprises, which we see all around, but really by the flourishing of natural gifts. Unnatural gifts in abundance. When the Pandavas were present on the planet, they could just walk out into the fields, into the rivers, and take as much resources, natural resources and gifts as they want, just with their hands. Gold, jewels, pearls was all naturally available by Krishna's arrangement. That's how we can measure prosperity. The gigantic industrial enterprises are products of a godless civilization, and they cause the destruction of noble aims of human life. When you move into the dimension or territory of industrialization, you are going to get a destructive result, which Prabhupada is going to elaborate. In Vedic science also, there's a science of having the power to create material industrialization using mantra power. And Arjuna was given that opportunity by Maya Danava to have that ability. Because Maya Danava was very happy with Arjuna and wanted to give him. Maya Danava actually made Indraprastha. And when Arjuna was asked to, if he wanted to get that gift to create material civilization, he looked at Krishna and Krishna said, no, don't take that. Why? Because this will be the result that Prabhupada tells us. It will destroy the noble aims of human life. What else will happen? The more we go on increasing such troublesome industries to squeeze out the vital energy of human beings, the more there will be unrest and dissatisfaction of the people in general, although a few only can live lavishly by exploitation. Prabhupada is revealing the current state of our civilization of this planet. And if we don't learn ourselves and present the solution to people, then the status quo will stay. Then Prabhupada continues, the natural gifts such as grains and vegetables, fruits, rivers, and the hills of jewels and minerals, and the seas full of pearls are supplied by the order of the Supreme. And as he desires, material nature produces them in abundance or restricts them at times. How come we don't have these resources? Because Krishna restricted them. Why? Material nature restricted them. Why? Because of a godless civilization, because of trying to be independent of, or trying to create a gigantic industrial civilization enterprises. The natural law is that human beings may take advantage of these godly gifts by nature and satisfactorily flourish on them without being captivated by the exploitative motive of lording it over material nature. So it's not that you should starve. It's not that you should not have these resources. No, they are there for you, but they are there for you to be engaged in Krishna's service. So abundance is there for you to use abundance in Krishna's service. Yudhishthira Maharaj had abundance, Maharaj Parikshit had abundance, Maharaj Ambarish had abundance. Poverty means disconnection from Krishna. So there's abundance of these resources, natural gifts. So we should be increasing our natural gifts to measure prosperity in our lives. And the root cause of not getting these is exploitative motives of lording it over material nature. The more we attempt to exploit material nature according to our whims of enjoyment, the more we shall become entrapped by the reactions of such exploitative attempts. It's like when a fly goes into a cobweb, spider's web, and tries to become free. One leg gets stuck onto the web, and the spider thinks, okay, if I use the other leg and push with the other leg, I'll become free. And in this way, when it starts using all its leg, it becomes more and more entangled. This is the nature. So we need to become free from this exploitative mentality. If we have sufficient grains, fruits, vegetables, herbs, then what is the necessity of running a slaughterhouse or killing poor animals? A man need not kill an animal if he has sufficient grains and vegetables to eat. The flow of river waters fertilizes the fields, and there is more than what we need. Minerals are produced in hills and the jewels in oceans. Now, if I go to the oceans and I go to the hills, I don't see anything. Why? Because of exploitation. So we need to present the proper consciousness, the proper culture, the proper attitude of how to live happy in this world with Krishna in the center. There is no lack in Krishna's creation. We create the lack with the wrong attitude of the exploitative mentality. And we go to the schools that are created by those who have this exploitative mentality to culture and exploitative mentality into the children, so that we can create a generation that have the same exploitative mentality. And that is why Prabhupada wanted us to create our own schools, so that we can raise children with this proper consciousness and understanding. If we don't break away from the system that is there to exploit, we will also be implicated in the reaction of the exploitative mentality. And what will it end up to? Starting with an F, a fiasco. Prabhupada continues. If the human civilization has sufficient grains, minerals, jewels, water, milk, etc., then why should it hanker after terrible industrial enterprise at the cost of the labor of some unfortunate man? But all these natural gifts are dependent on the mercy of the Lord. What we need, therefore, is to be obedient to the laws of the Lord and achieve perfect human life by devotional service. The indication by Kunti Devi are just to the point. And Prabhupada is also just to the point. By such desires that God's mercy be bestowed upon them, she desires that God's mercy be bestowed upon them so that natural prosperity be maintained by His grace. So when we connected in Krishna consciousness, there should be no lack. The resources should flourish because Krishna is pleased. If resources are lacking, it is not because there is no resources. It's because a lack of our Krishna conscious connection in terms of depending on the Supreme Lord, being obedient to the Supreme Lord, and engaging in devotional service, free from motivation, uninterrupted. This is where the lack is. It's Krishna's way to tell us we're moving in the wrong direction if we're experiencing these symptoms. If we move in the right direction, then there will be ample water, there will be ample jewels, minerals, fruits, vegetables, herbs, etc. Milk. So very clear for us to measure direction that we are moving individually, collectively, and as a society. Prabhupada in his lectures mentions Krishna is glancing over us. Just like we are sitting here, Krishna is glancing over us. Everything's nice, first class. Krishna has come very kindly because you are trying to become Krishna devotees. He has come before you in his full opulence and is glancing over you, and you become happy and beautiful. When we invite Krishna, Prabhupada says, when you invite Krishna in the form of the deity, and Krishna glances over you, just like when we go take darshan 7 o'clock, it's not that I'm going to see Krishna, but Krishna is also coming to see you. Krishna wants to see you. And Krishna is wondering, where's my devotees? And when Krishna glances upon us and he sees us, we become happy and beautiful. Plastic bangles. Formerly, people use these pearls, the valuable stones, silk, gold, silver, and decorated the body with nice manufactured ornaments. But where are those things gone? Those things are now gone. Now plastic bangles, advancement of civilization. This is advancement, plastic. So we have to go back to real civilization, not artificial civilization. Nature's way means Krishna's way. By nature's way means Krishna's way. So you take nice water from river. What is the use of constructing huge waterworks, supplying water? Nature has already given you. You take fruits, nice fruits. You take grains. You take milk products. You take silk. You take pearls. You take jewels. Everything is. You want riches. You collect the pearls. You become rich. There is no question to become rich by starting some huge factory producing these motor bodies. If you want to be rich, then you can get riches. Where from? Vanadri, Nadu, Danvanta, from seas, from the rivers, from the hills. You can get valuable jewels, gems, pearls, and from these natural resources. So India's wealth formerly, it was depending on these things: gold, silver, jewels, pearls, silk, not industry. And from the forest, from the herbs, from the food grains, all natural products. Hindus would not touch the china, clay utensil, glass or plastic utensils. Godless civilization, they no more can depend on natural gifts. They think by industrial enterprise, they will get more money and they'll be happy. And to become satisfied with food grains, vegetables, natural gifts, this is primitive idea. They say it is primitive. When men are not civilized, they would depend on, when men are not civilized, they would depend on nature. But when they advance in civilization, they must discover industrial enterprises. So instead of eating on metal dishes, the civilized men should eat on what is called plastic. That's all. Now plastic utensils, not even metal. Still, according to Vedic civilization, these Hindus, they would not touch this china, clay utensils, or this plastic utensils, or glass utensils. They'll never touch. So simply by Krishna's glancing, Kunti Devi is expressing that so many beautiful things are there, simply by your glance. So if you simply plead for Krishna's glancing, so there's no question of scarcity, there's no question of need, everything will be complete. So here's another very simple instruction by Srila Prabhupada, how to get abundance. Previously, what Prabhupada, in the previous lecture, Prabhupada said, simply we have to pray to Krishna, please come in the center of my life. Now, simply by your glance, my Lord, Prabhupada is saying, simply plead, my Lord, please glance upon me. And if you glance upon me, there will be no scarcity. Everything will be complete. Text 41. So now Queen Kunti is presenting. Previously, she presented a prayer that, my Lord, please bring calamity more and more. That was one of the prayers that many devotees or people misunderstand. There's another prayer that can be misunderstood. It's a very extraordinary, out of ordinary prayers. So here is another out of ordinary prayer by Queen Kunti. And the reason she's presenting this prayer is, if you are here, my Lord, my parental family, the Vrishnis, will suffer in Dwarka. If you go, my sons, the Pandavas, will suffer. These partialities are troubling my mind. So, my Lord, she says, Ata Vishvesh Sa Vishvatman Vishwamurte Swake Shume Sneh Asam Imam Chindi Dridam Pandushu Vrishnishu. O Lord of the universe, soul of the universe, O personality of the form, personality of the form of universe, please, therefore, kindly sever my tie of affection for my kinsmen, the Pandavas and Vrishnis. So now she's saying, my Lord, O Lord of universe, O Lord of soul, kindly cut the ties of affection for my kinsmen, my affection for the Pandavas and for the affection that I have for Vrishnis. Why? Because of my affection for them, I'm torn between these two parties. Because if you here, I'm happy for them, for the Pandavas, but not for the Vrishnis. And if you there, I'm happy for the Vrishnis, but I'm torn because the Pandavas are not happy. So because of this, please cut the ties. Now, what's interesting is the Pandavas and the Vrishnis are devotees of Krishna. So what is she saying? Cut the ties with the devotees? What is Queen Kunti asking for? So Prabhupada in the purport elaborates and makes it very clear. And in essence, it's about remove the material part of affection and keep the spiritual part. So Prabhupada says, a pure devotee of the Lord is ashamed to ask anything in self-interest from the Lord. But the householders are sometimes obliged to ask favors from the Lord, being bound by the tie of family affection. Srimati Kunti Devi was conscious of this fact, and therefore she prayed to the Lord to cut off the affectionate ties from her own kinsmen, the Pandavas and the Vrishnis. The Pandavas are her own sons, and the Vrishnis are the members of her paternal family. Krishna was equally related to both the families. Both the families required the Lord's help because both were dependent devotees of the Lord. Srimati Kunti Devi wished Sri Krishna to remain with her sons, the Pandavas, but by doing so, her parental house would be bereft of the benefit. All these partialities troubled the mind of Kunti, and therefore she desired to cut off the affectionate ties. Now Prabhupada goes and elaborates a little further. A pure devotee cuts off the limited ties of affection for his family and widens his activities of devotional service for all forgotten souls. And Prabhupada was a classic example of cutting his ties with his immediate family and opening his love and affection for all the souls in this world. People generally would work hard for their immediate family members because they think, these are my children, this is my family, this is my wife, etc. And therefore, it's my duty to support them. Krishna consciousness means coming out of that small circle of affection and extending one's affection beyond that. A typical example is the band of the six Goswamis who follow the path of Lord Chaitanya. All of them belong to the most enlightened and cultured, rich families of the higher castes. But for the benefit of the mass population, they left their comfortable homes and became mendicants. To cut off all family affection means to broaden the field of activities. So this is the one thing, to cut family affection means to broaden the field of activities, the field of spreading Krishna consciousness, the field of extending ourselves equal to everyone. It's not that I only do something for my family and not for others. Without doing this, no one can be qualified as a Brahmana, a king, a public leader, or a devotee of the Lord. The personality of Godhead as an ideal king showed this by example. Sri Ramachandra cut off the ties of affection for his beloved wife to manifest the quality of an ideal king. Such personalities, such as a Brahmana, a devotee, a king, or a public leader, must be very broad-minded in discharging their respective duties. Srimati Kunti Devi was conscious of this fact, and being weak, she prayed to be free from such bondage of family affection. So Prabhupada was giving an example, just like a king. When a king takes that role or that responsibility, then the citizens become his praja, becomes his family. So now it's not that I have my immediate family and I'll do everything for them. No, just like nowadays, if there's a president, he'll look after the interests of his immediate families. And what happens to the rest of the citizens and the country? It's too bad. They can pay as much tax as possible so that he and his family members and immediate family members can live lavishly. That is not the proper way of ruling a country. The proper way of ruling a country is where the king now understands that actually my ties with my immediate family members is cut now. Now the whole country is my family members. All the citizens are my family members. And that is why you'll find that the king will make the decision for the interest or the welfare of the whole of all the citizens and not just an immediate family member. Even when selecting the next king, the king will not give his kingdom to his son, but he will give his kingdom even to one of the citizens that has the proper traits and qualities to rule. So this is the proper broad-mindedness that's required. And Srimati Kunti Devi understood this, but she could not, she could understand that she had, now remember as a pure devotee, she doesn't have this defect. But she's a pure devotee. But she's revealing this for our benefit. Because we may have still material affection. And because we have material affection, that may hinder our complete dependence on Krishna. The Lord is addressed as the Lord of the universe or the Lord of the universal mind, indicating his all-powerful ability to cut the heart knot of family affection. Therefore, it is sometimes experienced that the Lord, out of his special affinity towards a weak devotee, breaks the family affection by force of circumstances arranged by his all-powerful energy. By doing so, he causes the devotee to become completely dependent on him and thus clears the path for his going back to God. We see the example of Jad Bharat. He developed material affection for the deer. And Krishna, by his all-powerful potency, created the circumstances to break that tie that he had to the deer so that he could completely depend on him. So Krishna does this. Just want to see. I think there was another slide. Excuse me, I'm just trying to see. There was a. Okay, I forgot to mention here. the seeds. So this dependence brought me to this slide. I forgot to mention about the seeds. So I'm going to go back to that same verse in relation to the seeds. Dependence. So, and also Narad Muni. So firstly, when you surrender to the Lord and you totally depend on the Lord, you'll get true independence like Narad Muni. Narad Muni is able to fly anywhere. So that's true independence. That's real independence. That's the proper way to get independence, not other ways, not other means. In relation to the seeds, is you may take the seeds and you may also plant those seeds into the ground. So you plant the seeds into the ground. The question is, will it fructify? Will you get the desired fruits? Because you planted the seeds, you took some time, you acted, you were active, you were enthusiastic, you planted the seeds. Will it grow? Not necessarily. If there is no rain and there is no sunshine, those seeds will not grow. So it's not just about the seed or the planting of the seeds. You need the rain and the sun. Now, who gives us the rain and the sunshine? Who gives us the water and the sunshine? No human being. It is the Supreme Lord. So therefore, we're totally dependent on the Lord for his mercy. And we find throughout these verses this point of dependence. And Queen Kunti is showing that, my Lord, I depend on you even to help me progress. And one obstacle that I'm experiencing, my Lord, is this material affection. Please cut my material affection. So she's not asking that you please destroy this the relation that I have with the Pandavas and the Vrishnis. No, the spiritual relationship, no. But please destroy the material affection that I have, thinking that they're my sons, thinking that I'm part of the family. Because ultimately we connected to Krishna. Prabhupada is going to bring this up in this verse. So Krishna says, do you want Brahman realization? Why are you cutting relationship with my devotees and thus me? And then she says, no, my Lord, this is really my intention. Toyi me nanya vishaya matir madhupatesh krit. Pratim udvatata ada gange vagoham udanvati. O Lord of Madhu, as the Ganges forever flows to the sea without hindrance, let my attraction be constantly drawn unto you without being diverted to anyone else. This is what she's asking for. I want my affection, my attraction, my attachment to you be unhindered, be constantly drawn to you. This is what she's asking. Just as the river will not be obstructed by any objects and always overcome and continue moving. Similarly, she's praying, let my attraction be drawn to you. This is her prayer. And Prabhupada very beautifully shares in the purport in relation to the previous verse, how we should deal with affection. Perfection of pure devotional service is attained when all attention is diverted towards the transcendent loving service of the Lord. To cut off ties of all other affections does not mean complete negation of the finer elements like affection for someone else. So it's not becoming impersonal. That's not the point. That is not possible. A living being, whoever he may be, must have this feeling of affection for others, because this is a symptom of life. To have affection is natural. The symptom of life, such as desire, anger, hankering, feeling of attraction, etc., cannot be annihilated. Only the object has to be changed. Desire cannot be negated, But in devotional service, the desires change only for the service of the Lord in place of the desire for sense gratification. The so-called affection for family, society, country, etc. consists of different phases of sense gratification. So desire for sense gratification is unwanted. We should simply desire for Krishna's satisfaction, for the devotee satisfaction, for the spiritual master satisfaction. That should be the desire. And the extension of desire, sense gratification, extends to family, society, country. Therefore, when you focus simply on pleasing Krishna, then also that would impact family, society, and country. When this desires change for the satisfaction of the Lord, it is called devotional service. Now Prabhupada goes further. In the Bhagavad Gita, we can see that Arjuna desired not to fight with his brothers and relations just to satisfy his own personal desires. But when he heard the message of the Lord, Srimad Bhagavad Gita, he changed his decision and served the Lord. So Prabhupada is giving our very practical example, right, of this, that we desire affection for our family members, but here Arjuna was now ready to kill his family members. Initially, he had this affection, my Lord, I don't want to kill anyone, they're my family members, my guru, etc. After he had Bhagavad Gita, he was ready to kill. Means when you're ready to focus on Krishna's pleasure, you will do whatever it is, whatever is required, even if it means, like Arjuna, killing your family members for the pleasure of Krishna. But when he heard the message of the Lord, Srimad Bhagavatam, he changed decision and served the Lord. And for his doing so, he became a famous devotee of the Lord. For it is declared in all the scriptures that Arjuna attained spiritual perfection by devotional service to the Lord in friendship. The fighting was there and the friendship was there. Arjuna was there, Krishna was there, but Arjuna became a different person by devotional service. He became a different person by understanding the center, the focus, understanding that he has to please Krishna and nobody else. That is the focus. Therefore, now Prabhupada is bringing it to a practical level for us. The prayers of Kunti also indicate the same categorical changes in the activities. Srimati Kunti Devi wanted to serve the Lord without diversion, and that was her prayer. This unalloyed devotion is the ultimate goal of life. Our attention is usually diverted to the serving of something which is ungodly or not in the program of the Lord. When the program is changed into service of the Lord, that is to say, when senses are purified in relation with the service of the Lord, it is called pure unalloyed devotional service. Srimati Kunti Devi wanted that perfection and prayed for it from the Lord. So her prayer, all the prayers she has been offering, was simply for this pure devotional service, absorption in Krishna, becoming completely attached to Krishna, becoming completely dependent on Krishna, having Krishna as the ultimate protector. This is Kunti Devi's prayer. Her affection for the Pandavas. Now Prabhupada gives us a very, very important instructions for us due to our conditioned nature in relation to material affection. Her affection for the Pandavas and the Vrishni is not out of the range of devotional service, because the service of the Lord and the service of the devotees are identical. So it's not about cutting ties and affection for devotees. We want to have affection for the Lord. We want to have affection for the spiritual master. We want to have affection for the devotees. Sometimes service to the devotees is more valuable than service to the Lord. But here the affection of Kunti Devi for the Pandavas and for the Vrishnis was due to family relation. So here's the first point. They are my sons. No, they're not your sons. They are servants of Krishna, and Krishna has given them temporarily as service to have them as your sons. So they're not. So that's the first point, is that we may think, Krishna, these are my children, this is my wife, my husband, etc. No, this is not the case. This tie of affection in terms of material relation is the relation of Maya, because the relations of body or mind are due to the influence of external energy. The relations of the soul established in relation with the Supreme Soul are factual relations. When Kunti Devi wanted to cut off the family relation, she meant to cut off the relationship of the skin. The skin relation is the cause of material bondage, but the relation of the soul is the cause of freedom. This relation of the soul to soul can be established by the via media of the relation with the super soul. Seeing in the darkness is not seeing, but seeing by the light of the sun means to see the sun and everything else which are unseen in the darkness. That is the way of devotional service. So we want to have relationships with everyone in relation with Krishna as the via media. We are connected to everyone because we are connected to Krishna first and foremost. And because everyone is connected to Krishna, and when we are connected to Krishna, then we have proper connection. We don't want to be separately connected to everything minus Krishna. That's like seeing without the sun. When I see Krishna, when I see the sun, I can see everything else. So Prabhu's giving me a very beautiful example. We want to cut the skin relationship, not the soul relationship. When we think, I'm Indian, therefore let me serve Indians, that is skin relationship. Let me look out for Indian brothers, that is skin relationship. Let me look up for India, that is skin relationship. And as long as there is skin relationship, there is bondage, material bondage. So I don't want to, I want to cut off, firstly, the fact that I'm Indian. I have Indian skin, I'm Indian. No, you are not Indian, you don't have Indian skin, your body is Indian. You are a spiritual being, you are part and parcel of Krishna, you are a servant of Krishna. That's the identity that you need to, that's your true identity which you need to imbibe. When you think I'm Indian, I have Indian skin and therefore I'm Indian, that misidentification of India, of this material body, Indian skin, will now allow me to extend that illusion and that conditioning further to my family members who are related to this body. So Indian skin, Indian body, Indian family, Indian son, Indian husband, Indian this, then to my family, to my community, to my nation, and this continue to extend and permeate the illusion, the material bondage of the skin disease that Prabhupada says is the cause of all our trouble. So even as devotees, we should be very careful to not get plagued by the skin disease. We have to see beyond the skin disease. And Prabhupada, in this lecture, he spoke about, and he says, this is International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Everyone is welcomed. Why? Because everyone is part and parcel of Krishna, a spirit soul. So Queen Kunti is saying, my Lord, this skin affection that I have, the skin disease that I have to my family members, please cut that. I'm weak. I cannot do this on my own. I need your help. Please cut that, because if you cut that, my relationship with you will become stronger. My relationship with them as soul to soul will become stronger. That means it'll please you greater. It'll be more devotional service. If we have material affection, that will become an obstacle and hinder our full dependence on Krishna. Just as clouds hinder our vision to see the sun. Similarly, in different ways, material affection will hinder our progress to fully surrender to the Supreme Lord Krishna. Text 43, last verse for today. Now Queen Kunti is summarizing and concluding her prayer by glorifying Krishna to different names and now offering her obeisances. Shri Krishna Krishna Shaka Vrishna Rishabhavani Drug Rajanyavamsa Dhananana Pavarga Virya Govinda Godvija Surati Surati Haravartara Yogeshwara Kila Guru Bhagavan Namaste. O Krishna, O friend of Arjuna, O chief amongst the descendant of Vrishni, you are the destroyer of those political parties which are disturbing elements on this earth. Your prowess never deteriorates. You are the proprietor of the transcendental abode, and you descend to relieve the distress of the cows, the brahmanas, the devotees. You possess all mystic powers, and you are the preceptor of the entire universe. You are the Almighty God. I offer you my respectful obeisances. So she glorifies Krishna to very different names and qualities of Krishna, and she is now offering her respects to Krishna. And Prabhupada in the purport says, a summary of the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna is made herein by Srimati Kunti Devi. The Almighty Lord has his external transcendental abode, where he engaged in keeping Surabhi cows. He is served by hundreds and thousands of goddesses of fortune. He descends on the material world to reclaim his devotees and to annihilate the disturbing elements in the groups of political parties and kings who are supposed to be in charge of its administration work. He creates, maintains, and annihilates by his unlimited energies, and still he is always full with prowess and does not deteriorate in potency. The cows, the brahmanas, the devotees of the Lord are all object of his special attention because they are very important factors for the general welfare of human beings. So Kunti finally ends her prayers by summarizing these glorious traits and qualities of Krishna, and thus ends these beautiful prayers of Queen Kunti that she heartfully offered to the Supreme Lord, revealing her desire of becoming attached to Krishna, wanting Krishna, to be with Krishna, never to be separated from Krishna, to simply dedicate her whole heart, life, and soul to the service of the Supreme Lord Krishna. Very beautiful prayers, many wonderful lessons, which Prabhupada extols in his purport as well. Kwantarat Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Queen Kunti Devi ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Go Pramanande, Hari Hari Bol. Are there any questions or comments anyone has regarding the verses? So Rasraj Prabhu says, God created the country and man created city as stated by Giriraj Swami. Yes. We create the havoc. Ideal parasite accuse others of being idol worshippers. Next week, we will be covering Krishna's response and then continue to see what happens in this chapter. We'll also see how Krishna responds to Queen Kunti's prayers. Okay, anyone has any feedback, please type in the chat, or if you would like to unmute, you're most welcome to unmute. Right, let's. Shamananda Prabhu says, Hare Krishna Prabhu, wonderful prayer, nectar from Queen Kunti and Srila Prabhupada. Thanks for the pastime from Tripurara Swami. Can you give example of the throwing potency? Yes, I can. So the classic example that I can give is consider if if one is a devotee now, one, or I'll give you another element. This is, so it's in line with the same example on share. So we had a devotee that joined us in Hillbrow, early 1991, when we got the Hillbrow Center. Then we needed an accountant. So there was a accountant. He wasn't a devotee. There was an accountant who was staying, across the temple, just a block away, and he was employed to be our accountant for the temple. So when he joined, he came with the mentality that you people will never convert me, and you will never convince me otherwise. So we said, well, we're not here to convert you. We're not here to, do anything. We're employing you to be an accountant, right? So he was happy, and we were happy. And he was employed as accountant, so he would come for his hours, log his hours, do his accountant business, and that's it, and go home. But he was coming to the temple. So he was coming to the temple, we were feeding him prasad, right? And befriending him. So we were friends, he's an accountant, having relationship, being cordial to him. And he was very attached to eating meat. He would go past the meat shop and, he had his choices, and he was attached to meat. So he didn't want to give up meat eating, and we didn't encourage him to give up meat eating. He was employed. But because he was having prasad, and we were befriending him, and then he would start at 8 o'clock, but because greetings was at 7, then eventually he was thinking, well, might as well come at 7 o'clock, be part of the program, and then, do the accounting. So and slowly like this, he started getting cultivated without being forced. We would give him breakfast, lunch, and supper. He was getting prasad, he was getting purified. And without fail, he was becoming a devotee. Eventually he became a devotee, started chanting 16 rounds, and then gave up meat eating. So then he shared this experience that when he gave up meat eating, he was thinking, wow, I never wanted to give up meat eating. In fact, I love my meat. And now I'm disgusted with it. How is it that I loved it so much? And how is it that now I don't like it at all? There must have been something that was covering me from understanding and seeing the truth. And that covering potency was Maya. So Maya was able to cover the living entity, that what is wrong seems perfectly normal. And here's an example in terms of eating meat. It's like, you walk into a butcher shop and you say, yeah, can I have that pair of ribs, please? Can I have that breast? It's like, people choose bones and parts of animals' bodies, and they think it's perfectly normal. This is covering. As Kali Yuga progresses, the covering will become even more stronger, that you'll be able to, go to your friend and say, I like your arm, I'll have it for supper. This is covering potency. See? Under influence. Like people are under influence of liquor, they're under influence of material energy, the throwing potency, the covering potency. So Maya has that ability. And it is only by Krishna's mercy that we can pierce through that covering potency and come out. And when we come out and we look and we think, gee, that was true. And like that, the covering potency can cover you, thinking that sex life is all, that material civilization is all in all, that to exploit and become independent is all in all, to be free is all in all, to be powerful is all in all. So these are all covering aspects of the potency. Now, what Radhika says, absolutely beautiful class. Thank you so much for these prayers of Queen Kunti are truly inspiring, beautiful. Srila Prabhupada's purpose are brilliant. Thanks for explaining so nicely. Yes, they extremely amazing. Prabhupada's, every purpose of Prabhupada is just such an amazing points the Prabhupada makes is just far out. Madhachani Siri says, thank you so much for the beautiful class as usual. Thanks for sharing the analogy of Hanuman, the arrow, and the holy name. Yeah, we can contemplate on that. I want to become an arrow. My Lord, please use me. Amar Varika says, when the soul leaves the body, how long does it take to get its next body or destination? So that all depends on Krishna's arrangement. Generally, it's immediate, right? And time is relative. So it may be immediate and it may be relative for other living entities, for other personalities. Okay, so it's generally Krishna makes the perfect arrangement. And because we don't have foresight, we don't know, then it could be delayed, it could be immediate. We know whatever Krishna does is best. So instead of asking a question, how long does the living entity take the next body, it's really whatever Krishna decides, that's best. If it means some time for Krishna, then it's some time for Krishna. If it means longer, then it's longer. So immaterial of how long it takes. The point is Krishna will do what's best. In some case immediate, in some case relative to how we see. For example, the soul takes, it's somebody who's not Krishna conscious, the soul has to go to Yamaraj. And that journey takes some time. And while on the journey and going to Yamaraj, then getting sentenced, then getting punished in the hellish planets, then taking birth, it may take many, many years of Yamaraj's time. But from the Earth planet, it's nanoseconds. So the soul took birth again, but between that time of one body to the next, nanoseconds, in that nanoseconds, Yamaraj gave that soul all its due punishment, which were, ages. So time is relative, going higher and lower, just like 6 months of heavenly planets, it's one day of ours. Oh, sorry, other way around. 1 day of heavenly planets is 6 months of ours. Right? So it's a relative. Madhila, Hare Krishna, thank for Krishna Katha sharing the markings of the lotus feet of Krishna. Please, can you also share the markings on the hands of Lord Krishna, Srimati Radha, and Balaram? Thank you so much. Yes, you just we did a class on that, but you can just Google. Just Google Krishna's hands, Srimati Radharani's hands. Lord Balaram, Lord Nityananda's got markings, which is there also on. There's in scripture, obviously these are described. You can even type in Lord Chaitanya's hands and feet, and you'll get it. And different symbols have different meaning to it. Conch shell means auspiciousness. The gold means to pull your mind towards the lotus feet of Krishna. So different symbols, one can meditate on the different symbols of Krishna's lotus feet like that. Jagannath Priya Hare Krishna, thank you for today's most transcendental class. Prayers of Queen Kunti is most enlightening. Yes, Videsh Prabhu says, Queen Kunti's prayer in verse 41 to severe ties of affection seems different from a request to severe ties. Is that right? So as we explained, it's not about severing ties. It's about severing material ties. So we want to cut skin ties, not soul ties. Any skin tie, any material tie, any illusory ties, we need to cut. Any spiritual ties, any soul ties, any Krishna ties, any devotional ties, we want to amplify. So that's the point, right? We want to intensify spiritual relationships centered on Krishna and reduce material relationships. Now, sometimes it may be difficult to know, you may think I have a spiritual tie which is actually material, and I may have a material tie which you think is spiritual. So that you need proper guidance from Guru and Krishna to not interchange or misidentify the ties. All right, thank you very much for everyone's from Bafana Prabhu, did I miss? Okay, let's see. What should we learn from Srimati Kunti Devi's shift from praying for family, the country affection, to the cutting of tie of family affection for more attachment to the Lord? It's almost as though today's session was divided between affection for family to drift and to shift to cutting of affection. So her prayer is, she glorified Krishna and now she's offering prayer. My Lord, you cannot leave. Why? Because of you are protecting us. We're dependent on you. I want to become more attached to you. I want to engage in your devotional service. I want my attention to be flowing like the Ganges, non-stop, continuous, unmotivated, uninterrupted. I don't want any material tinge to stop my affection. So she is praying for unalloyed devotional services. Prabhupada explained in the second last verse that we covered. This is her desire. Please give me unalloyed, pure devotion, affection, attraction to you. She revealed many obstacles which Prabhupada highlighted in the purport. So for example, lack of dependence on Krishna, not depending on Krishna, lording over material nature, material affection. So we may have material affection, and if we have material affection, that material affection can dampen our relationship with Krishna, because we may do things for our material relationships that may not be conducive to pleasing Krishna. So that's her point. It's not, as Prabhupada says very clearly, about cutting ties, because it's natural to have affection. So it's not about cutting ties, right? We want to be attached to devotees, but we want to be attached to devotees not for material sense gratification, for serving Krishna. So the ties, the affection, the bond, the service is all again Krishna-centered, not I-centered, not skin-centered, not my-centered, but Krishna-centered. Serving the nation, serving the country, serving the family, serving the society, this is all I-centered. And therefore it's sense gratification. It's about Krishna-centered. So when you become attached to devotees, immaterial of skin color, immaterial of which family they belong, the fact that they are devotees of Krishna because they have Krishna in the center and I have Krishna in the center, I can have a wonderful relationship. So this is bringing the soul center, the supreme soul center, and the soul culture into our existence, and not the mundane culture or the material culture of me, my skin, my family, my nation, okay, my affection. That can be dangerous and can dampen one's decision, one's relationship, and progress in spiritual life. So I hope that was a little, that clarified a little, right? And one can contemplate on that. If there's any questions that, clarity, please bring that up next week when we are covering the feedback. Thank you very much for all the devotees for your association in hearing and serving Srimad Bhagavatam. We will continue next week with verses 44 to 52. Kwantarat Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gopram Nande, Hari Hari.